Okay, let's dive into a fascinating, and let's be honest, a kind of uncomfortable idea: the dark psychology of drama. We're going to try and figure out why, even when life is going perfectly, there's this little part of us that just seems to crave a bit of chaos. I mean, have you ever felt this? Everything's calm, everything's peaceful, you've gotten exactly what you wanted, and yet there's this little impulse, right? This little itch to just stir things up. Maybe pick a fight, create a problem where one doesn't even exist. It's a really strange feeling, but it's also a deeply, deeply human one. This right here, this is the perfect way to think about it. Getting what you want without the journey, it just feels hollow. The victory is completely meaningless if there was no struggle. I mean, the prize itself isn't the point, is it? It's the quest. That feeling of emptiness, that's the key. That's what unlocks this whole puzzle for us. So why do we do this to ourselves? Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at the very foundation of how our minds even work. It turns out we've kind of got two completely different operating systems running in our heads at all times. Right, so a psychologist named Jerome Bruner came up with this idea that we have two modes of thought. On one side, you've got what he called the paradigmatic mode. Think of this as your inner scientist. It's all about logic, categorizing things, seeking out the cold, hard facts. But then on the other side, you've got the narrative mode, and that's your inner storyteller. This mode isn't about abstract truths at all. It's about human intentions, our actions, and, well, the consequences that unfold over time. And this is how we actually make sense of our lives. And here's the crucial part. For Bruner, narrative isn't just about entertainment, books and movies. No, it's a fundamental way we think. It's the primary tool we use to process the messy, unpredictable world of human goals and all the struggles we face trying to get there. Yeah, Bruner really boiled it down perfectly with this quote. Now, vicissitudes, that's just a fancy, powerful word for all the chaotic ups and downs, right? The twists and the turns that happen when we're trying to achieve something. And here's the bottom line. Without that struggle, without those vicissitudes of intention, there literally is no story. Okay, so if our minds are literally built to think in stories, what's the engine? What's the thing that actually drives those stories forward? What keeps us totally hooked, just dying to know what happens next? Well, this is where a literary theorist named Peter Brooks comes into the picture. He actually gave this driving force a name: narrative desire. He described it as this powerful magnetic pull we all feel toward a conclusion. It's that gut feeling of just needing to see how it all ends. You see, this desire is basically the lifeblood of any plot. It creates this tension right at the beginning that can only be released at the very end. It's that what if and the then what happens that makes us binge watch an entire season of a show or stay up way too late to finish a book. We are just wired to crave that final release, that resolution. And Brooks lays all of this out in his really groundbreaking book, Reading for the Plot. His big argument is that this desire for the end, it's so fundamental that it shapes not just the stories we read or watch, but the very stories we tell ourselves about our own lives. Okay, but hold on, because this is where it gets really interesting. This is the central paradox of the whole thing. We desperately, desperately want to get to the end of the story, but the end itself, it's kind of a trap. So remember, we've got this powerful engine inside us, right? This narrative desire, and it's pushing us relentlessly forward. We are just wired to seek out that final moment of clarity, that beautiful resolution. But think about it. What actually happens when you get to the end? Well, the story stops. The characters just cease to exist. Brooks calls this the non-narratable. It's a state of total quiet, of silence. In a very real way, the end of the story is the death of the story. Which leads to this crucial point. If the end is silence, if the end is basically death, then all the meaning, all the life, all the substance has to exist in the space between the beginning and the end. Right? It has to be found in the journey, in the struggle, in the delay, what Brooks calls the detour. And this is just such a powerful idea when you really think about it. The plot isn't just a bunch of events leading to a conclusion. The plot is the process of delaying that conclusion. It is the working through of all that tension from the beginning. And boom, this brings everything full circle. Remember that urge to self-sabotage we talked about at the beginning? Well, according to Brooks, that's just our inner storyteller instinctively writing deviance and error into our own life's plot. We know on some deep subconscious level that a story without complications, without that necessary delay, is an empty, boring story. So we create them ourselves. So you might be asking, why does this deep-seated need for drama feel so intense right now in our modern world? Well, it's because modern life has handed us this new immense pressure. We all have to become the authors of our own lives. The philosopher Charles Taylor, he points out that we live in what he calls an age of authenticity. What does that mean? It means we're constantly told that the goal of life is to find ourselves, to express our unique identity. We're not just playing a role that society gives us anymore. No, now we have to write the entire script ourselves. Okay, let's put all the pieces together. This is the sequence that explains so much. First up, society tells us we have to create an authentic self. That's from Taylor. Step 2, we understand and build that self. How? Through a personal story. That's Bruner. Then step 3, for that story to feel meaningful at all, it needs conflict and struggle. That's from Brooks. And all of this leads to the big conclusion, number 4, we instinctively create that struggle. We literally author drama into our own lives because that's what gives our authentic story its shape, its purpose, and its meaning. So what this means is we have a completely new way of looking at this behavior. That dark impulse to mess things up when they're peaceful, it might not be a character flaw. It might not just be you being difficult. It could be the narrator inside your head just trying to write a story that's actually worth telling. Look, if you take just one thing away from all this, let it be this. We're always taught to see struggle and conflict as like bugs in our life's programming, right? Problems that we need to eliminate. But from this narrative perspective, that is completely backward. The struggle isn't a bug in your story. The struggle is the story. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Knowing that you are the author of your own story and knowing that every good story needs a compelling plot, what kind of story are you writing for yourself right now?